Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry. Sorry, I'm still trying to deal with technical problems. Now my camera's dark.
Bro.
Did you like how I added a little whisper to it? The podcast about illustration, how to do it.
Yeah, we've all published a lot of books. I'm dealing with a lot of allergies today, so I can't concentrate on all the publishers we work for or the universities we taught for, but we've done all that stuff. And so, Lee, what else do you think about that?
Well, it sounds great.
Okay, so Lee, you were just telling us that you're not shipping to Spain anymore.
Spain is off my list. If you
It's
are
off your list.
from Spain, you're not getting anything from me. No, international shipping is a massive problem for those of you guys who are thinking about doing a Kickstarter.
Or shop, online shop.
Online shop. It's international shipping just in general, up to the first level, is problematic. It's like Jake said the other day, that only 20% of his orders are international, and that's 80% of the problems that he has with shipping.
Yes, the shipping problems.
I agree 100% with that. It's really, really difficult and expensive. The problem is when something goes wrong, you are in deep for trying to rectify it, because say somebody doesn't get a package, but you want to send them another one. Well, you got to cover the shipping now, and shipping is really expensive. Like when I ship a print, it's $30. It's really expensive, $40. So if it goes missing, it's not the buyer's fault. So you got to make it right somehow. So I'm losing money. Anyway, in international shipping, it's 50-50 on whether it's going to get there. That's about my confidence level. Spain in particular, nothing is getting to Spain. It all leaves the United States fine. It's trackable to landing in Madrid or wherever, and then it's just gone. There's no updates. There's nothing you can do. It's just they don't have any record of it. And it's really bizarre. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, so we've just basically taken all international shipping, with the exception of Canada, off of our site. And so It's just not worth it to try to track down, a couple of cards and a print. Take me a whole day to do that. So
what about South America? Have you had problems there too?
Like I said, everywhere else in the world other than Canada is a 50-50 proposition on whether it gets there or not. Sometimes it does, no problem. Sometimes it doesn't.
Now, have you ever thought about offering a digital version of it for overseas, so they could just purchase the digital for $20 and then they print it? It's up to them how it gets
good
printed.
Idea. That's probably, we just now came to the conclusion and drew the line in the sand. So that's a good idea, I think, to try to, I don't want to just say, hey, too bad you can't have anything. Maybe that makes you grow fonder. You know how when you can't get something internet, I'll become David Hasselhoff over there in Europe. That's right. That's why he's popular.
No, you have to put out a disco album in Germany in order to get popular. That's
Japan too.
Yeah, isn't that what Hasselhoff did?
Oh man, international sensation, the Hoff.
Will, how do you deal with international shipping?
I haven't had to yet. Well, so I put my most recent book on, for sale, and had a bunch of people that were interested in buying it internationally. And they all emailed me and said, hey, the shipping is insane, so I won't be buying your book, which I then sent them a pre-written reply that it's available on Amazon. And then I saw a lot of them went over there and got it there. So, so yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, shipping is a mess. I still have people with what they don't teach in art school that, have opted to or are opting to get the digital copy because they don't want to pay the shipping. And I had somebody say, no, they kept emailing me saying, hey, the shipping rates have gone down. So I had my guy who is shipping those books out look him up again in Italy. And he's like, here's what it will cost us to ship it, not adding anything extra, just the postage from the post office. This is what it costs to weigh this package to get a shipping label. And it was $45. It was actually 47. and the book itself was $39. And I sent him the screenshot of like we didn't create the label because he hadn't paid for it, but I'm like, this is what, if we, like, he just didn't believe me. Like, if we create the label, this is what we have to pass on to you. This is what your country is charging this to us. And he ghosted me. He like never replied back. That was after a couple of years of back and forth. Like, I'm not going to pay the shipping now. I'll wait for it to go down. It never went down.
I'm wondering, because I want to launch a Kickstarter in June for a comic, and I'm wondering if it just should be North America only, and like that will be a loss of 20% of the funding money, but it'll also be a loss of 80% of my headaches.
Right.
So I'm wondering if that's a fair trade-off.
It's just so much more expensive to ship now.
I don't know. I'm gonna look back and see. I'm gonna do a deep dive into the numbers and see. Ask my assistant who helps me out, and just be like, okay, how many orders actually didn't make it to them? Do the math, and then we'll make a very educated decision.
Uh-huh.
Well, also it's the reason that a lot of people just yell at you, like Will was saying. They buy your product and then they don't want to pay $35, $40. So it stops a lot of emailing back and forth. Hey, why is this so expensive? So we are putting together Self-Publishing Pro, and this will be a huge section on it. We're going to have detailed data on, whether you should ship internationally. I don't recommend it at this point.
I saw someone polled their audience, and I can't remember who this was, but they put out an article on. They polled their Kickstarter audience they had a bunch of previous Kickstarters that were successful, and they said, "Hey everyone, because of the high costs of shipping internationally, would all of you mind if we just took all the numbers and averaged what shipping is, and had everyone pay the same rate, whether they're international or stateside over here?" And it was resounding no from the U.S. backers. They're like, no, I won't buy your product if you charge me more for shipping, because it costs more for someone else. It's just a mess. It's just
yeah. Okay, well, let's go to. We got a question here from Bailey. She, I feel like we just answered this question. I want to know if Bailey emailed that in, because the last hotline or wasn't the hot. Oh, you know what? We missed it during the hotline episode, and then the following episode we recorded the answer to that question. So that must be why we saw this. Your question's been answered. We promise. We went deep dive into that. We looked at your portfolio and everything. So keep an eye out for that. It's coming soon. Then we got Jason asking, I've got a quick one for Jake. As both the author and illustrator of Little Bot and Sparrow, did you notice an increase in the advance you received as compared to just the illustrator? I didn't, because I was an untested author, and so they were less willing to take a chance on me. The advance money is all about accounting and statistics and all the number stuff, and they run the numbers and how much did he make on his last book? It was this amount. How long ago did that book come out? How many copies sold? Was he the illustrator? Was he the author? Oh, he wasn't the author. Then we're just going to treat him like a new author and give him our new author sort of advance. And so that's what I got for that. And as far as I know, that's still kind of the MO of publishers, what they're offering.
But now, to clarify that though, your percentage went to 10%, right? From 5 to 10%
for royalty.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at my last royalty statement. I didn't quite pay attention to that, because
Jake.
Well, I was planning on that book. Once I got the first report back, and saw how many copies sold and saw how far away it was from reaching its royalties,
Right.
I just was like, oh, this book will never pay out.
Right.
So that's why I didn't even think about it.
But everyone should know, like, there's no way you're not getting 10%. You normally get 5, right? When you're just the illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
Just the illustrator.
Yeah.
So
I do know for Missile Mouse though, that it's 10% for certain sale points and versions of the book, and it's 6%, as low as 6% for other versions.
You're at 10%. There's no way you're not.
Okay.
There's no way they would do that to you. We need to report back though.
I'll go dig it up. It's in my files somewhere.
The point there is, let's say you normally get advanced $30,000 at 5%, and you're just the illustrator, and then you get advanced $30,000, but you wrote it and illustrated it, and you're now at 10%. Then you're a new author, and they don't want to take any more risk on you. You have to sell half as many books to earn out. So it's good news, because if you're at 10%, you'll start getting royalties twice as fast as you would have if it's going to get. I mean, like, you're in the black with selling half as many books as you would be at 5%. Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, to me, it doesn't matter so much if you really created a great book. I mean, the advance matters, but let's say maybe it doesn't. Let's say it's a big publisher, and normally you get $30,000 advance, $50,000, and on this book they're going to give you $10,000 advance at 10%, right? So let's say you're getting $1.50 a book. You only have to sell 7,000 books, and you're in the black.
Yeah.
And so you'll start getting royalties much sooner with a higher percentage on royalties. Anyway, just want to make that clear.
Can I share this document I've been obsessed about over the last few days of the top selling comics and graphic novels for 2022?
Oh my gosh, this is great.
We get an update on this every day, so go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot to process. So this is from The Beats. This is BookScan 2022. Brian Hibbs has been doing this for 20 years. He starts it with this quote: "There are 3 kinds of lies, damned lies, and statistics." So that's his way of saying this is kind of close, but it's not exact, meaning this doesn't count. So BookScan is essentially every bookstore, Amazon, and some comic shops.
Which, by the way, we should talk about getting a subscription to BookScan, the 3 of us, and see if it's affordable. I know I think it's like $500 a month, so it might not be, but maybe you can buy a month at a time every now and then, because I am so curious to know the numbers.
And so what this guy does is he gets these numbers and he just does this big long report, and you could see like this thing is extensive and comprehensive. I think it's a 50,000 word document. Anyways, you could scroll forever and not get to the end of it, but there are some really nice tidbits coming up here at the top. And one of the things that's interesting, if you're interested in doing graphic novels or comics or anything, is that your chances of success in this field are greatly increased if you are a Japanese mangaka, so someone who makes manga, or if you're Dave Pilkey, and everyone else can is going after table scraps. But here's the big picture. He does the top 750 books that sell. This is a list of 50,000 books now at this point. And so there's books on there that sell maybe 10 copies in a year that he doesn't worry about. So he calls that the long tail. And he's just primarily concerned with the top 750, because he said that's where you really get an idea of the health of the publishing industry. And so if you look over the years, back in 2003, when he started doing it, 5.4 million graphic novels have sold. And now in 2021, we got a massive jump because of COVID, 30 million copies sold. And 2022 is sort of holding steady at that 1% increase, 31 million copies of books.
Wow,
sold.
look at that 68% increase.
Yeah, it's huge. Okay. So then you look at this. Well, what here we see it's 2007. It was 13,000 books that were being published. And now in 2022, every year more books get published. And so now in 2022, we're at 50,000. But that's a pretty steady increase in titles published. If you think about it, different publishers are coming out with 100, 200 books every year, and there's multiple publishers. So we're getting, a lot of books. And then this is really interesting. So here's the best-selling books. Cat Kid Comic Club, Volume 3, On Purpose. That's this book right here. You may have seen it in your kid's hands. He sold 623,000 copies of this book in 2022. And that's just through bookstores. There's no way to account for school library sales, like the Scholastic book sales that they have. And he said it's possible this could be double.
Wow.
That if you count those. Those books are usually printed little cheaper quality and sold at a less than sometimes these books are sold at a lower cover price, and so the percentage you make off of those books is lower too. But so then let's look at number 2. 400,000 copies of Volume 2 of Cat Kid, another Dave Pilkey. We should see if we can get Dave Pilkey onto this podcast.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So you go down and then you get Five Nights at Freddy's, which is like a licensed properties published by Scholastic. And then you get into your manga. So Chainsaw Man, which I read Chainsaw Man Volume 1, and I see why people like it, but it wasn't for me. Anyways, this is really interesting stuff. And then the thing that really got me laying awake at night was this list. What if we sort things by author? There are 10,839 different names on the entire NPD book scan list. So out of 10,000 authors publishing or working in publishing, here's the people who sold more than 100,000 copies in a year. Now, if we do a little fuzzy math and say it's a 10% royalty, here is the people who are making $100,000 a year in royalties from their books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, he did I think I ended up, there it is. It's 89 people. Huh. 89 people are making $100,000 a year from royalties. And then I think, it might be a couple hundred who are making between 50,000 and 80,000, and then several thousand. I see Nate
Hale on there.
Yeah, that was interesting. So Nate Hale actually sold more books than Bill Watterson last year.
He's one of our friends.
Right.
What gives him the right?
So there's Nathan Hale. We've got friend of the podcast and someone we interviewed, Kazoo, at 166,000 book sales. But it was really cool. Let's look at the top 10. Dave Pilkey at 3.6 million books. Then we have these 4 Japanese authors. Then we got Raina Telgemeier at 850,000. Then we have a handful of other mangaka, and it's just interesting. What's interesting too is John Green and Raina Telgemeier and I and Dave Roman all shared a table at a Comic-Con in New York back in 2007, and we were hanging out, and we're like, we just want to break into this industry, and we want to sell books, and we want to make comics, and that's the dream. And I was like, I was way into Missile Mouse, like sci-fi, like just Saturday morning cartoon style stuff. And Raina was doing this web comic about her experience with braces, and I remember John was doing Teen Boat, about a teenager who turns into a boat. So it's like Teen Wolf, but instead of a wolf,
true
it's a
story.
boat. I think so. Him and Dave Roman were doing that. And then it's just so cool to see these guys now, like they really made it. They did it. John's doing Investigators series. It's about these alligators that go on adventures. So anyways, I just thought this was interesting and I wanted to share it with you guys.
This kind of been an obsession recently.
It has been an obsession. I mean, last week we had Tony Cliff on the podcast, and he's a graphic novel artist, and we got into it. Like, is a career in comics viable? Like, is it something that you can actually like count on? How do you break in? How do you stay in? How do you make money off of it? And that's the thing, you know, I've been talking about and thinking about off and on for years. And I always I go back and forth because the main problem with comics is it's so labor intensive. But it's so satisfying, like creatively satisfying. And especially for storytellers who aren't great writers, but are great storytellers, especially visually, comics is a wonderful like avenue to tell stories. But how do you, when advances aren't great, when royalties aren't great, like how do you make a living off of it? And that's been my problem, where I've had success, but not like outlandish success, right? Like my Missile Mouse books, all in all, have sold over 100,000 copies, but that's over the span of 10 years, right? And most of that was in the front years of that. Yeah, so that's, I guess it is somewhat of an obsession. And thank you everyone here who's still watching for indulging me on this. I just think it's interesting.